You're a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout, to amplify and transcend, tame the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone. Hey y'all, hey, I have missed that intro. Oh my goodness, 2023, we are here. Last time I saw y'all, I think I was talking to James Possible. Shout out to James if you're out there. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. I'm gonna just let you know I'm your host, Sharice Fonts. Super excited. If this is your first time in the High Vibe Zone, welcome. You are in the right place. If this is not your first time in the High Vibe Zone, you're coming back for more. Thank you for being here with us. Drop in the comments that you're here. Let me know. You might be watching this recorded, which is totally fine too. But if you're watching this live, drop some love in the comments. Let me know what you're grateful for. Gratitude changes the attitude. I have such an amazing show for you today. I'm super excited to just kind of be back into this vibe. So back in the day when we started the High Vibe Zone, I would do an encouraging card and we talk about that and kind of kick this things off. We are going to do that again. I got an encouraging card here. I'm just going to pull it and me and my amazing guest are going to talk a little bit about it, but I'm just going to give it to you right now, a little food for thought. Let's see what comes up. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's always aligned with the conversation. Okay, keep moving forward is our encouraging card of the day. I'm going to just set it right here. And please allow me to just introduce my amazing guest. So I was looking at the timeline. My guest and I have been connected since March 23, 2022. That's how far we go back. So, but we've more recently connected. And this amazing human has a vision to live deeply. Her mission is to be the voice that influences people and companies to connect for powerful results. Her purpose, y'all, I love a good purpose, is to empower people to be the artist of their own lives. That's deep. Oh my goodness. I feel like I got to break out the fire emoji just alone. I'm only 3 lines in. She is amazing. And without further ado, I'm just going to bring my guest in here. Just warm, high vibe welcome to Katiya. Katiya, hello.
Hi, thank you for having me, Sharice.
Yes, thank you for being here. I mean, I think it was my birthday message that you sent me. And I was like, okay, there's something about this person's vibe. I want to get to know you more. I was like, I think you would be amazing for the High Vibe Zone. And then we had a conversation and I was right. I'm like, the world needs to hear what you have to say. So before we get started, how is your being in this moment? Wherever you are, what is your being? How are you?
Well, I am fully conscious. I've been preparing for this moment all day. But my being is well. I would say I feel well and I feel healthy and I feel good.
Great. All amazing things to hear. I'm so glad that you are doing well. And again, excited and thankful that you are here on the show with me today. My first High Vibe Zone of the year. This is amazing. So,
Yes.
okay, so you were backstage. I talked to you a little bit about the encouraging card of the day. The encouraging card of the day tends to always tie into something that we talk about. I don't know how it happens, but keep moving forward. What is that like? What comes up for you when you hear those words?
Yeah. So it always reminds me about the little things that we can do to keep moving forward.
Mm.
And so, as someone who grew up to be just a very ordinary person, and I believe everybody is ordinarily extraordinary, uh, I think that when I see those three words, keep moving forward, it really is more about making progress against progress.
Mm.
Because without that, we're not really moving forward. We're moving, but we're not moving forward in the direction of success. And so it's about doing the little things that we can do in real time. It's about doing the little things that can make a reasonable difference for one, as well as for the masses.
Mm.
So those three words definitely is about making progress as an individual and as a collective group.
Absolutely love it. I can tell this is going to be an amazing conversation. I have nothing to add to what you said. I think you said it beautifully. I just want to amplify it in the sense of it is the perfect. I think it's the perfect three perfect words for where we currently are, not only just in this year, but this month, this season, this generation. So thank you so much for just bringing that wisdom to these words. Gonna give a shout out to my girl Felicia. Hey girl, hey Felicia, joining us here in the High Vibe Zone. Go ahead and drop what you're grateful for, girl. Like I would love to hear that. Katiya, are you connected with Felicia?
I don't know. I have yet to audit my entire network.
Okay. Well,
And
if
maybe I have to check.
I think the two of y'all would totally
But
vibe.
if not, I'll definitely reach out to
Yeah.
Felicia. Nice to meet you.
Okay. So, I want to before we go into like the doing of what you do, I want to ask you a little bit about what was it like for you growing up? Could you tell me a little bit of your origin story in this moment?
Yeah, I think growing up, it was a very ordinary experience for me.
Mm.
And by that, I had a decent childhood. I had friends of different diversity, nationalities, different skill sets. And so it was a very average, I would say, uh, brought up. My parents were average people with average dreams.
Mm.
And so with the 8 siblings that I had to be responsible for, I'm the second oldest. It really dawned on me early on that um, part of my childhood was going to shape who I am today and what I do today. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, that childhood is just so important for adults, especially as we age and become parents, to tap into it. So the early or young me is still who I am today, and that is that same question that we get: who do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I know I told my teacher and my counselor that I just wanted to be a better version of myself. I wanted to just be me, not an engineer or a doctor. Obviously, there are centers of influences like my siblings who are much smarter than me, and I've got friends who go to Ivy League colleges, and I'm happy with them, for their successes and their incredible stories that they've actually been able to do in this lifetime, and also when they were really young. For me, growing up was all about embracing who you are as a human being, as well as just really trying to learn how to be adaptable as a kid. So I had really no recall memories of being jealous or wanting to be competitive. I just really wanted a healthy friendship with friends. I wanted a healthy relationship with my parents. And so I really just aspired to be someone who could make a little difference here and there, who could be a little sunshine or sunflower wherever I went, but not be a people pleaser. But really someone who could listen to people because I appreciated being heard and listened when I was young. And so it was a beautiful childhood, I would say, just because I could really enjoy things as they are, and I could really understand people of different ages and different cultures. And so I would say my childhood was just really full of life. I don't know if it's perfect, but it was really full of life and it was really meaningful for me wherever I went.
I love that. And I I think that you've definitely succeeded as, you know, being a better version of yourself. I could totally see the younger you and in a lot of what you're saying in this, more mature state, but still keeping that essence. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to, I like circle this 8 siblings. Like, shout out to your parents.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, so you're the oldest, you're the second oldest
Yes.
of 8. And
Of 9 total, well, including
so there's
me.
9 of
Yes.
y'all
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Where is my heart emoji? I love that. That is amazing. Oh my goodness. So you have large family gatherings then.
We do. The whole town is always invited, or the whole farmers community.
Yeah, my goodness. Okay. So you definitely have a very unique perspective. I think being the oldest of you know, any type of siblings, definitely not the oldest, but the older of the others.
Yeah, I was pretty much the secretary to the oldest, which really allowed me to see a lot of different views and kind of be that middleman or middle woman person.
Interesting. Okay, I think this is all leading up to just kind of what we're diving into today. All right. I'd love to know, what would you say, or who would you say is the biggest influence to, when you think of like where you are currently in your life, who or what is the biggest influence that shaped that?
I would say equally both of my former parents,
Mm,
just because they taught me the difference between conforming to society's view of success and also finding my own success. And they also taught me how to find my own definition of living a pleasant life or a deep life. And I think that really allowed me to pick and choose what matters to me in a very conscious way. It just made me better at defining options that were going to work in my favor while it also worked for the favor of people around me or those I cared. And so my parents are both very independent people, very humble farmers. They never had big dreams, but they had dreams that really mattered, such as, being that first vendor at that farmer's market that's across the town, or making the best egg rolls, and competing against other family members who thought they had the best egg rolls. But just little things like that. Or my dad would be, he would always tell me that he wanted to be the best bus driver for the people who were disabled because he was driving a bus driver for handicapped people. And so to me, they were always able to show me that to be the best is really just what's the next step. And if you keep on doing the next step, that's going to get you to getting better, because there's really no such thing as perfection.
yeah.
And so they were really able to instill those values in me, for me to see people as human beings, and for me to see all the different qualities that people have, and how to glue all of that together in a very healthy way versus in a way that would just create more noise and clutter or complexities. And so my humble parents, with no college education, I think they both earned their GED somehow at one point. And I know they were studying really hard for that, but they're really just good American citizens. And they really, really tried to live not just the American dream of a big dream, but they really tried to live life fully. Just using the best of what they could, resources around them, and also kind of really giving back to people in very small ways, where they would go around and drop, bags of sugar or salt, or they would share corn with people that would stop by or give them extra corn. And so for me, they really showed me that early on, it's important for us to be able to develop that independence for ourselves. And we have to do it for ourselves. Our spouse, our parents, our siblings are not going to do it for us. They're not going to help us find happiness. We are going to do it ourselves, and we are responsible for our own happiness. My mother would always joke about, I can't trust your dad at all because he's very handsome. I would only trust him once he's buried under the ground, 6 feet or 12 feet, because He
Wow.
is just such a very understanding human that chicks would be flocking around him because he would connect with anybody, really anybody, and have a really good conversation with them. While my mother was more of an introvert.
Hmm.
She held back until trust was built.
Yeah.
And so, my parents are kind of the odd ducks in our culture, in our society,
Hmm.
because often in the Hmong community, oftentimes your parents are supposed to be there and staying with you and raise your kids. But my parents wanted out. They were actually the children who wanted to see us turn 18 and they wanted to leave us. They wanted to go and pursue their dreams and be independent because they did their job. They raised us. We graduated from high school. We became decent human beings. Didn't do any crimes or drugs. Just we were able to survive and make a living. And so my parents, when they left us, like the whole community, the whole pretty much Asian communities around us were shaming
Hmm.
my parents that how could they just leave their children, their young adult children, because they're supposed to sacrifice their entire life for us. But I
Wow.
saw it as they've done enough and they need to live their own life. They've sacrificed enough. They've been through war. They've been
Hmm.
through a lot of pain and all of that. And so it's really more of the duty of the children, because we're educated, we're able to do things that are more efficient and effective than they are. That's more on us to help them achieve their dreams. And so that is what they taught me is letting go and also supporting those that's not just you with their independence. And my parents were actually the first set of couple that I actually mentored and coached to return. What they gave me is that yearning for independence and actually taking small little actions to help them with that.
Hmm.
And so definitely my parents to answer your question.
That is phenomenal. I want to meet your parents because there's so much in what you said. I feel like we could go so deep, and I'm gonna keep it small for this one. We'll have to have you back for sure because what you not only said was my parents are such a big influence on me because they did all the simple little things that really mattered. And then not only did they do that, but they were like, "Hey, we're going to go against what culture basically says that we need to do. And we're going to do what feels right for us. You guys are grown. You guys have done this. You're okay. We're going to go live our dreams." And then, it kind of ties into this keep moving forward vibe that's popping up. And to Felicia's point, like your parents sound amazing. And I'm just so curious, even more. Like, I know a little bit of your story, but I'm just so curious of how much that is embedded in what you're bringing to people. That's just, again, creating these ripple effects because the way that you speak, the things that you have been taught, things that you have learned really is rolling up into basically everything that you're doing now in your ecosystem. And I just got to shout out, you're a mother as well. So I can only imagine the journey that you are going on with your kids as well.
I am basically teaching them what I've been taught.
Yeah.
But I know I don't own my kids. They often tell me that. At least when I told them that I don't own them, I really don't. But I'm responsible for their wellness or to a certain age until they feel like they can go on their own. And so, yes, I mean, my parents with their beautiful broken English and their humble personality. And really, I think for me, telling the truth is really probably one of the biggest lessons they've told me.
Mm,
It doesn't have to be a good answer, but if you always tell the truth, just like Dr. King often says, then it's always for the right reasons.
yeah.
And so that's really what I'm doing today is, finding the Mr. and Mrs. Rogers who appreciates the truth, who doesn't want to, have the talk of like I guess going around the bushes, but really having meaningful conversations and really people who care about other people,
Yeah.
but also care about themselves just as equally as others, or even more, because we're entitled to live life for ourselves more than anyone.
Right. And you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't care about self, it's kind of questionable if you can care about
Mhm.
someone else, right? There's that
Yes.
there. Okay. Now I want to get into a little bit more of the what do you do now and why? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yes. So right now, I would say I'm doing something that's courageous.
Hmm.
And also, I don't know if I would say it's different because it's something that could have been done by leaders before me and leaders right now. And when I say leaders, I'm talking about CEOs and people who are sitting at the board,
Hmm.
just really, I wouldn't say important people, but people who have really big responsibilities and people who are responsible for other people as well, their success and their wellness. And so this courageous thing that I'm doing today is actually part of a study that I did over the pandemic,
Hmm.
where I had left my corporate career. I was in HR, I was in technology, etc. But I had left my career to go on this really interesting experimentation. So I'll put on my Adam Grant hat or my Simon Sinek or Brene Brown, whichever of the three that you want to or that you know. And I'll talk a little about what I was trying to do is for 2 or so years, I would say, really since the start of the pandemic, I went on this journey because I realized that there was one thing on my bucket list that I could do better. And that was I could have more meaningful connections. Now, do I want to go out there and be that kind of influencer who paid attention to the algorithm and yearned for followers? Or do I want to be the kind of influencer that truly connects and talks to people, ordinary and extraordinary people, and having really meaningful, real time online conversations online? So I decided that it would be the latter, that I would go on this journey and I would at least audit 1,000 CEO profiles, go through their social activities, and try to understand, not catch what they did wrong, because that's not who I am, but really try to understand why are they doing so many podcasts and white papers and panel discussions and webinars. So I would attend a whole bunch of them, and I would be probably the only one or one of the few who would actually send feedback and give these long commentaries on their social feeds,
Hmm.
um, because I wanted to show them that that is what makes a difference. You can take some of those energies, just a little, let's talk about being reasonable, because executives, thought leaders, they're really busy. And not that ordinary people aren't. If you're a mother, you have a whole bunch of kids, right? You're also busy, and everybody has the same amount of time in a day. But when I'm talking about busy, it's more about they're responsible for other team members. They're responsible for the growth of the organization and scaling it, etc. And so I thought I would, with my own naked eyes, study instead of rely on statistics.
Hmm.
Because again, one thing my parents taught me was statistics didn't work on changing my behavior. But
Hmm.
as soon as they said, "Don't be like your cousin Jill," oh, I knew not to do that. And so when I studied 1,000 or so CEO profiles, I also made sure that my biases was in check, that I was also studying 1,000 non-CEO profiles. And so I call this group of people the ordinary people, like you and me, the parents, the blue collar workers, the painters, the auto mechanics, like my husband who fixes cars, right? Those kind of people that don't have that kind of leadership responsibility. So I ended up over the course of 2 years really studying the social habits and activities of 2,000 plus CEOs and non-CEOs. And what I found was that there really was a genuine interest to build healthy relationships. And I think I would prefer the word healthy just because, just like in a family, right, you have your ups and downs. You hate and you slap and you hate each other, but you come back and you make up and you love. I mean, at least that's what I remember from my childhood. Pulling my sister's hair, but then the next day we totally forgot about what happened and we started playing with each other again.
Right.
In the adult world, that's the same thing. It doesn't get that physical, but it does still get that brutal out there. And so I found that, ordinary and extraordinary people, executives and thought leaders and blue collar workers, all of us, we really craved authenticity. We
Hmm.
really craved being heard rather than just to be seen.
Hmm.
Because you can be seen by just posting something. The algorithm can tell you that there's been so many views. So some human must have passed by and skimmed by. I saw it. But you really are. missing a strong voice. You really are missing the capability to be a strong reader, a strong researcher, a strong commentator, so that you can provide opinions and thoughts and perspectives that can really make a difference and help people out. And so that's really kind of what I found when I was studying and experimenting and having conversations, comments with people on LinkedIn, going back and forth, emailing them. I kept everything online just because it was an online experiment, because I really wanted to test it out about my belief that could you still have meaningful conversations online without taking someone offline or meeting them in person? Absolutely. If you remember the days before us, right? Our grandparents or great great grandparents, they used to send love letters and have conversations that way. It still works, and sometimes it works better online because it's less intimidating. You're less confrontational because you're not seeing each other's faces. You're just seeing a name in a picture, and so that journey taught me a lot about social leadership. And so I decided that I was going to do something courageous. I was going to continue to talk to CEOs and continue to talk to ordinary people. And so I formed this global movement, and really we just launched last week, but it's been 2 years of pro bono work. So I'm almost bankrupt. So now we're going to find organizations and partner with them and really train for the first time. I wouldn't say for the first time in world history, but for the first time out of a few times, we're going to train leadership and non-leadership about what true social leadership is all about. And we're going to do that by asking CEOs and their leadership team to be more intentional with their activities on LinkedIn. We're using LinkedIn since it's the most professional platform and the most civil platform. And so we're having them take these pledges about, I promise to be more intentional. I promise to be more genuinely interested in my employees and other people who may not really see me as their equal because my title might be scary, right? If you see someone who's a Fortune 500 CEO and you're a janitor, you probably will not feel confident approaching them, even if it's online, and offering your comment because they're so smart, they're so wise. What do I have to add? But you actually do have something to add as a janitor, because oftentimes leadership, they're not in the weeds. They have trusted people that are in the weeds, and report back to them. But it's still good for them to be in the weeds. And so we have this leadership program that's for the CEOs and executives about how they can do more meaningful interactions on LinkedIn with ordinary people. And then we also have a separate program, because what's the use of training leadership, right, when you're not training non-leadership? So it's a dual program. You can't help one group and not the other, because there's a direct effect for both parties. And so forget checking the boxes about, forget about people of color. Let's just look about and also look more internally at what's inside. And so I decided that for employees, for ordinary people, according to my experimentation, it seems that a lot of them struggle with expressing and articulating their thoughts and feelings and emotions and telling their stories. And oftentimes, this is from my experience as a previous HR manager, oftentimes we just force them to read a book or we force them to go into like a one-day workshop, right? But the problem there is that the trust hasn't been built before. And trust takes time. So I think it's unreasonable for leadership to just say, everybody take a survey and we're going to see what's wrong with you and we're going to diagnose you and bring in a whole bunch of people to fix you. That to me, as an employee who I felt that you haven't earned my trust when I say you leadership, I don't know if I really want to tell you more about my colors or who I am, because I don't feel safe. It kind of goes back to psychological safety, which we kind of hear a lot now since the pandemic. And so I thought, to make a difference for employees, ordinary people, let's train them on how to become expressive writers. Because if they can become expressive writers, they can become better influencers. They can become better relationship builders. They can become more genuine and authentic about who they are and not feel ashamed to share more of their identities. And so it starts there really with that self-exploration, and a book can help, but it's also a transactional piece. But what's really going to help is the dual program of having leadership saying, oh, I see you, Mr. Janitor. Let me go and comment on your post, and let me say you did a great job, and I look forward to your next post.
Yeah.
That's something that's reasonable, that only takes a few minutes, a week or a month or a year for a CEO or someone of that leadership level to try to become a better listener and interact with ordinary employees. And so for the ordinary employees, they're going through this 12-week journey where we're training them on how to become expressive writers. The course is actually titled How to Become a Micro Influencer, because a micro influencer is typically a small influencer who dedicates more of their time and energies to getting to know their followers and their connections and building relationship and rapport with them. And so that's why I chose how to become a micro influencer. But the core of the training is expressive writing. And so imagine if you had 1,000 employees, right?
Mhm.
And there's 12 people in the leadership team. Imagine if those leadership people were, through the course of the year, able to interact with these thoughtful posts and articles by your janitor, your secretary, by anybody at your company, because they actually now have a voice. They're not just going out there and shouting their frustrations. They actually have a voice. They can talk about Black Lives Matter, equality for women, whatever that they really care about. They can talk about it in an intellectual way, in a civil way, in a way that is, from the soul, mind, and heart, to try to connect at that human level to the leader, to the decision maker. And so that's all really what the global movement is trying to do. Deep Coalition is really just trying to help people to explore themselves and help them to better humanize their social activities so that they can connect with each other. And then obviously find ways, as a kid, right, find ways to grow. So we're not telling them how to network. We're not telling them how to find prospects, because it starts from them, becoming that type of influencer first. And then eventually, once they're done mimicking our voice, our deep voice, they'll find their own voice. They can transform and find their way to networking or building better relationships with coworkers. And I think that really, to me, that idea came from a quote as a child. My dad gave me a book, and I didn't even know this guy was a martial artist, Bruce Lee. I only saw him as a philosopher because I got his book first. And so I didn't know that he was known for, being a movie star, a martial artist movie star, until I was about 10 or 11.
Okay.
So I got his philosophy book, and I just thought, oh, this is great. This is the first philosophy book that I'm going to read. And so, but there was a quote in that book that said, I can't teach you anything. I can only help you to explore yourself. That quote stuck on me, and my dad would often repeat it to me in our language.
Yeah.
And he kept on reminding me that. But then that, from what I've learned from that quote, and I truly believe in it, that is kind of how I started thinking about what is it that I want to do in this world that's going to make a difference to the few and the masses. Right. Because I could spend all my time and energy and write a book and make sure it gets on the New York bestseller. And there's nothing wrong with that, because books are impactful, books are powerful. Everything that you're doing, as long as you're putting effort, it means something, it counts. But I wanted to do something that was more proactive. And so that's why we thought we would come up with this global movement and offer a dual social leadership program for leaders and non-leaders, and encourage them to interact with each other, be a part of each other's work and life journeys, and share more personal topics, talk about things that's more in alignment with personal values and how personal values align with the company's core values. Talk about things like a good memory in your childhood. Talk about things like, what are some interesting ideas about culture that we haven't heard of. I'm sure if you have 1,000 employees, they're bound going to have some ideas that you haven't seen in a white paper. And so it's really just allowing them to trust each other more and form that relationship, then wait for an event or wait for an organizer to set up an event for them to date each other. So we're setting up a dating game, and we're going to play reasonably, we're going to play fairly, and we're going to play with our heart, mind, and soul, non-judgmental. and let's see where that goes. The relationship between leadership and non-leadership.
Yeah.
Let's also see how that helps the both of them learn from each other, because oftentimes we're told that we can only learn from leaders, even though leaders often say they can also learn from other people.
Right.
But from what I've seen, and according to my audit, that's really not the case. The case is that leaders look to learn from leaders. No one wants to learn from ordinary people or people who don't have a voice. And so we're helping them to have a voice so that that can allow them to be accepted into the circle of excellence and say, okay, fine, I'll listen to you, Katiya. I know you're a housewife, but it seems like you've been writing some deep posts. You have some really interesting ideas. I'm interested. I'll give you 5 minutes of my time. What do you all have to say? But it takes time to build that trust both ways, where
Right.
you can get the attention of a leader, and also as an ordinary person, you can contribute to the works that they're trying to do. And so everything that we're trying to do as a part of the Deep Coalition global movement is to reciprocate,
Yeah.
and to help one another, and really making it part of an organic process rather than wait for another pandemic, or rather than wait for someone to fall and get sick before they become serious with self-discovery, self-actualization, etc. And so, yes, that's the courageous things that we're trying to do today, is really forming that healthy relationship, really connecting the dots. I call it merging the divide, on so many levels, because there's a lot of really interesting and a lot of very important awareness things that we should all be involved of. That it's not really about who's doing more, but you know all the things that are happening, all the issues that's circling, around the world or today, they're all important things.
Right.
So I mean, just because I'm not interested in human trafficking doesn't mean that I can't connect with someone who is a human trafficking counselor and learn about it and see how I can, with my small effort, contribute, because at least I'm making a little impact by being intentional about that. But if I were only to stick in my world and only stick to helping people to, let's say, develop side hustles or giving financial advice, then that's really not allowing me as an expressive writer, as a micro influencer, as a transformational leader to expand my mind. And so everything that we're doing hopefully will take little steps, and all of the collective efforts will contribute to a greater society, because I really truly, at the end of the day, do not want my son to live life and realize that how much progress did we actually make, mom, when it was your time and my time. I want to see progress against progress. I think we've done enough checking the boxes. Now we need to, as individuals, focus on all of the meaningful little things and work on it, because it's reasonable, so we can all do it. And if we can all do it, just 10,000 CEOs and organizations and employees, right? That's a huge difference that we can make in this world as a collective group.
Where is I love this emoji. This is my favorite emoji. Here we go. Fire emoji, because I absolutely love that. I think that, I was taking some notes and just processing everything that you were sharing, because while we do not have enough time to go into it, there is some, Deep Coalition, the name says it all there. And I know deep stands for something as well, but like this idea of social leadership is so key. I love merging the divides. And as you were talking about, hey, don't just stay with people, teach people how to do side hustles, talk to other people that are doing other things and kind of growing from there. This quote came up, and I'm sure you've heard the beginning of it, jack of all trades. The full quote is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. So if you're just staying with that one specific area that you vibe with, like finance or, entrepreneurship, but not stepping into retail or human trafficking or nonprofit, you really are kind of doing a disservice to what you could actually do. And I love that what you're doing is bringing, again, merging the divide. And I think it's very wise. It's timely. You're teaching people in the same way how to interact on social media, which I don't think we ever really had that crash course yet. You're taking ordinary people, ordinary humans, and allowing them to step into extraordinary light. And I am just thrilled for what you're doing. I mean, I'm so curious since launch, how has it been? Where are you at? What are you manifesting now that you've launched what you're doing?
Yeah. So last week I sent out about 100 emails. Actually, some of those are LinkedIn emails, and so 100 messages to CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been able to secure a couple of appointments. I've talked to a couple of CEOs. The number one comment, I'll just say comment, not excuse, that I got from them is, this is something, Katiya, that will change the world. It's going to change behavior. But we're just so busy. So then I thought, okay, I gave that example of, it's really not that you're busy, it's that you have a lot of responsibilities for a lot of people. And so that seems like it's crazy busy. My mother also had 9 children and worked 2 full-time jobs. And so I think she was as busy as any CEO of Fortune 500, if we're just saying crazy busy. But I did share with the CEO that it's not about catching what they're doing wrong. It's about, okay, look, I know from your feed that you enjoy coffee at Starbucks once in a while. Why don't you take 15 minutes from standing in line and going on LinkedIn and finding an ordinary human and just interacting? So that I started giving them examples of how they can take some time from their routine, because we all have 15 minutes a week. We can make time for it. It doesn't mean it's the most important thing. It just means that we're trying to check off the making a difference. And so I would say, well, maybe instead of preparing for your TED talk for 2 hours, maybe you could cut it to an hour and 45 minutes and spend 15 minutes. And so I was just trying to give them ways of how we can take away some time, because they're smart people. They can be more effective if they really want to. That's why they made it up there. And so then he agreed. He said, yes, you're right. It's about prioritization. And yes, I could be more efficient. I could fit it in. And that it's a reasonable ask. And so the experience so far, talking to that CEO and one college president last week, as well as one book author today, a New York bestseller, is interesting, because that was the first thing they would ask me. It's like, we're so busy. And then when I reply back with my authentic answer of, come on, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
Not to trap them. It did really help them to see more of what we're trying to do, because I think for them, they haven't had the chance to even go on my website and to read my research, to read what is the vision about, what is the mission, what is the short-term goal. The short-term goal is we're training people to become expressive writers, to become micro-influencers. That's just a short-term goal. The long-term goal, one of the outcomes is better networking opportunities, better relationship builders, healthier work and life balance, as well as people who are making progress towards self-actualization. Maslow's hierarchy, at the very top of that pyramid is self-actualization. And so they were starting to understand that, but I had to, because they haven't read the long, lengthy website. They didn't come prepared, basically. And if they did, they read it quickly, so they didn't fully grasp what the vision was, because it's really a big, big, complex vision. And we're trying to be specific with solving, but at the same time, we want it to be flexible and adaptable. And so after like these talks with them, they were able to really see this is the missing link between a marketing department and the HR department. What we're doing complements what DI experts are doing. We're not competitors. What we're doing complements what coaches and consultants are doing. So everything that we're doing, because we're the only one doing it, it complements what people are doing. It enhances their deliverables. It enhances what they're trying to do. And so we can only add value is kind of the takeaway. And so it was refreshing, because I really had to share some, screenshots of here's what this CEO said to me, here's what this CEO said,
Right.
here was my long reply on this comment to this CEO. And then they really saw that, well, she's capable of having a conversation with the elites, not just the farmers. And so I really had to show that, because without my, Ivy League degree, I don't have one. My sister went to an Ivy League college. But without those type of papers, right? We're all judgmental people. I am too. But I tend to spend more time studying people. So I guess I'm a little less judgmental than the average person, where I am a better judger. They were actually listening for the first time, doing what they were preaching, which is, how can I better listen to you? Let me hear what you have to say. And so it has been just a really wonderful first week and a half, talking to these executives and thought leaders, and hopefully we can get them to partner and join the global movement. It is a true global movement, so it's not a networking event. It's really, your people are free to do their own things, because we all have niches, but we're just helping to be the reminders of the importance of practicing humanity on social media. And we show how. So we're not just going to say, go and live deeply. Let me show you an example of how you can live deeply. That's a small thing to do. Here's one example. Here's two examples. Here's three. So that people can start to follow and do it, and obviously change course into the style that is, truly from their personality and character. So to answer your question, manifestation has been, I would say, a very fruitful 1.5 week. And it's tiring, but I know it's going to be worth it, because I've already done it pro bono for 2 years. And I've already trained so many executives and entrepreneurs and employees. Bless you.
Thank you.
So I know it's making a difference, and it will definitely shape the people, from across different regions and across the world, to better connect and listen to each other, and also better identify small things to help one another, so that it's not taking away from people's core purpose, right? But all the little things that we can all do today, if we can, I don't see why we won't do it. I just don't see. It's reasonable. It's and it's fair, and it doesn't cost a lot. Our partnership plans are ridiculously cheap, is what my accountant said. But the reason why it's so cheap is because the most expensive thing is the commitment from leadership, and from them encouraging employees to take this expressive writing course. And so that, I already feel, that's the most expensive investment, period.
I will say that when we first spoke and you shared with me what you were doing, I was like, oh my gosh, LinkedIn is my platform of choice. I'm not really too much on Instagram. I haven't tweeted in like a decade. And, I have, so LinkedIn's like where I vibe. I really like the platform. And so after I talked to you, I was like, what you're saying makes so much sense. And then I just had like a little bit of a shift. It wasn't a large one, but it was like, let me be more intentional with the time that I spend responding to people, because I can go back when I first got on LinkedIn, I didn't know what I was doing. And I left, comments unliked and unresponded to. And how you said is like, someone's taking out their time to comment or to give their thoughts or to whatever on your post, and just connect in that way. It's a small thing. And I think you do it very, very well. And I've seen others do it. And it just changes the whole vibe when you can take those 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever your time. If like, I've already posted and I got some time to spare, why not go in and see what my connections are doing? And I absolutely love that. And, I'm definitely inspired by what you're building and what you're doing. Before we close out, I think that there's two things that I wanted to ask is like, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find out what you're doing? Where do they go? How can folks get involved with what you're building, this movement?
Yeah. So I'm on, like you, I'm active on LinkedIn. I live and breathe on it. So they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Obviously, my life history is on there. So going through my posts, trying to understand my perspective, and obviously even commenting and sharing what they have to share. So even if they don't want to write a post, they can comment on and they can join me in my arena. So yeah, connecting on LinkedIn. And if they are someone who is a solopreneur, entrepreneur, business owner, CEO in a leadership position, I would love to have a deeper conversation with them about joining our global movement. And if there are HR professionals, if they happen to be any in your audience, then I would love to connect with them too, because I think HR people, they're kind of the right hand person of these executives, these decision makers, the CEO, because they represent people. They are the people builders. They may not have all the answers, but I feel like a lot of the ones that I've talked to, the majority of them really truly care about building people. And so I always love to connect with HR people. And so, yes, happy to connect and learn more about your audience. And hopefully they'll learn more about me and we can take it from there. But yes, definitely check out deepcoalition.com and send questions my way if you have any. But otherwise, I'm alive and kicking on LinkedIn pretty much, I would say, every few hours throughout the day. It's like my tea break.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Yes, deepcoalition.com. Definitely check it. The site is beautiful. I mean, it is phenomenal. And I've just really enjoyed hearing your perspective. I love your origin story growing up. It makes so much sense of where you are now. Your parents, phenomenal. Oh my gosh. I just am so impressed with that. Just what your parents have done. Um, and it just sounds like they were very intentional with all of you, and it just shows and shines. So shout out to your parents on that. And again,
Thank
for what
you.
you're doing is so impactful and meaningful, again, with the connection of really merging that divide. I absolutely love that. This last component, let me just clear out my banners real quick. This last component is what I like to call the mic drop. So essentially what that means is I'm going to give you every bit of space. What do you want to drop? It could be related to what you just talked about, something on your heart, whatever it is. The mic drop, the floor is yours. And then we're going to close out. But I would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. I didn't get to share this because I got off topic, but I wanted to just kind of leave everybody with these thoughts. Um, don't wait until you're in a bad situation to be proactive. And this is from my experience with talking to someone who I loved who went through cancer.
Mm,
And literally, I saw her die in front of me. The last few minutes, gasping for air. Whether her body was only alive and her mind was already out, I don't know. But when I saw that, I got scarred. And also, I have a loved one who has schizophrenia. And I just know so many people that's been through situations where through no fault of their own, they could live more deeply. And so the advice that I got from the dying, the disabled, and the healthy is you really have to find ways to build your own support community. That means that you should definitely join communities that share your values. But at the end of the day, it's really important for you to look around you, look at the people that you want to connect with who share your beliefs, values, interests, etc., and connect with them and build your own network. And make sure that it's diverse because you never know when you're going to need a lawyer, a second opinion from a doctor, or you never know when you're going to visit Switzerland and have a friend over there. And so in life, it's really important that you have a support community that through your own sweat, tears, that you built and you've nurtured, because that will come in very handy when you are laid off or when you are suicidal and you need help. You don't want to resort to Google and reading a whole bunch of reviews. You definitely want to build that community right now, your own trusted community. And that's really kind of the long-term goal of what we're trying to do at Deep Coalition is here's what we're going to train you, but we hope that years out from now, you're actually able to have some really good connections, whether that's 1,000 or 10,000 connections on LinkedIn, so that you can tell them that, hey, I'm selling shoes, I'm selling eggs or a book. Can you support me? And you wouldn't have to be ashamed and explain. Or you're saying, my son's birthday is tomorrow. Anybody have any ideas and a creative gift that you can actually post about that to your community that's yours? And so I really feel that that's something that most of us were not taught of, whether it was through school or work experience, is how to truly find those people. But before you can do that, you have to learn kind of the art of relationship building with professionals, because we're all just so close-minded in our world, because of all the things that we are responsible for, that you have to really learn how to do that, and in a very clear, intentional, and authentic way. Not an aggressive, not in a loud way, because otherwise you may lose that person who you may need in the future. And so you have to take a different approach. And I call that CIA approach: clear, intentional, and authentic, because you're looking to benefit them. And I think they're also looking to benefit you. And it's not always about money. Money is just a tool that can help you with fame and power, and definitely go for money until you have financial freedom. But while you're trying to gain financial freedom and you're trying to be the artist of your life, don't forget that the key to relationship building and networking and joining communities is that you are trying to also build your own little community, your own little town. And that is a town that hopefully you can go to for anything, wherever you are in this world, for advice. Because you're going to need it. And that's kind of a community that is your 24/7 mentors and sponsors. And so tap into other communities, learn their ways, but at the same time, don't lose sight of building your own community.
Amazing mic drop. Absolutely loved it. Oh my gosh. I love oh my God. We could spend another hour together.
It could be an all-day workshop.
I know. We could just do like a whole thing. I'm going to just digest everything that you have shared, because that mic drop was fire. And I just thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. You're gonna see the super sick outro intro in a second, but I just want to thank you for being the first guest of 2023 in the High Vibe Zone, but for what you are doing, what you are being, and just what you're adding to this world. Thank you so much. I feel like my intuition was very spot on when it said I need to have you in the High Vibe Zone, because this was definitely high vibe.
Yes.
So I just want to
high vibe, always.
Yeah, super high vibe. And I just want to thank everybody that watched, whether it's live or the replay. I highly encourage you to go connect with this amazing, amazing human, Katiya. She's doing some super solid stuff. Check her out. And I hope to see y'all here next week, because I got another amazing guest, and I cannot wait to just continue to highlight these amazing humans that I know, some on and off LinkedIn. So you found the High Vibe Zone. Stick with us. Thank you again, Katiya. I'm about to take us out with this super sick intro, outro. You have been in the High Vibe Zone. Light, love, and gratitude. I'm Cherise Fonts. See you next time.
Thank you for having me, Cherise.
You're welcome. You're a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout, to amplify and transcend, tame the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone.